with your host, Andrew Romanella.
When you play Battle in Mario Kart and you don't turn off any of the items, there are bananas everywhere. I mean, it's like you're losing your balloons because you're slipping on bananas left and right. Bananas everywhere. What's going on, everybody? Hey, welcome into another edition of The Rome Show here on 12ouncesports.com, broadcasting live on YouTube and X. I am your host, Andrew Romanella, and I'm back, and we are live here on a hump day, and we are ready to have a blast. I got to be honest with the people. Man, I missed the microphone. I've been down the shore with the family for Monday and Tuesday. That's why the Rome Show was unable to be live. I hope during that 48 hours you use that time to go back on your favorite Rome shows from the past, whether that be on YouTube, on X, or the Rome Show podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. Today starts our 32 teams in 32 days in the National Football League. I told you last week, all right, training camp has begun for all 32 teams in the National Football League. We are a week away from the Hall of Fame game between the Chargers and the Detroit Lions. All right, so we have to start getting into some football. And we here at the Rome Show thought we would take you through every single team in the National Football League and get you prepared for what should be a fantastic 2025 season. So we will start that today. And boy, do I look forward to that. I also look forward to when the people write in. You could do that on youtube.com/12OZ Sports, or head to X and follow the Rome Show 1. That's the Rome Show, then the number 1, and you'll get all the Rome Show information you need. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get it started here in the National Football League with the NFC West. Play the music. Oh. Now, for all of my big-time football fans out there, all right, you hear this song right here or one of the iterations of this song from any of the major broadcasting networks, and it's on. Okay, it's on. It's 18 straight weeks of Thursday night football, Sunday 1 o'clock football, 4:15 football, Sunday night football, Monday night football. It's it. You're in it now. It's football season. We start in the NFC West. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and we start with the Seattle Seahawks. Okay, so here's what we got. We got the Rome Show's top storylines for the Seattle Seahawks. Okay, we have some statistics from the 2024 season. We have some predictions for the 2025 season, and we have it all for you here on the Rome Show. So let's get started. First and foremost, the top storylines for the Seattle Seahawks heading into the 2025 season. The Seahawks were 10-7 last year in the NFC West. That was good for second place, okay? Geno Smith was the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks throughout the entire 2024 season. However, that's not the case headed into 2025. Sam Darnold is now the quarterback of the Seahawks. Arguably, the biggest storyline coming out of Seattle this offseason was the trade of Geno Smith to the Las Vegas Raiders and the trade of Sam Darnold from the Minnesota Vikings to the Seattle Seahawks. Free agent signing either way. The Seahawks signed Sam Darnold to a 3-year, 100.5. Yeah, those decimals, those dots and those big numbers they really play tricks on your eyes there. $100.5 million deal for the next 3 years to be the starting quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks. Last year, Sam Darnold had the best year of his career, 4,319 passing yards and 35 touchdowns for the Minnesota Vikings. But that's just the start for the Seattle Seahawks heading into the 2025 season, because for the last 8 years, okay, for nearly a decade, you've known Tyler Lockett in the Seattle Seahawks uniform. For nearly a decade, you've known Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf in a Seattle Seahawks uniform. Well, that is no longer the case. The Seattle Seahawks have parted ways with both DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. The number one wide receiver in Seattle is Jackson Smith-Njigba, okay, JSN, for those of you not wanting to say that name at home. He was the leading wide receiver for the Seahawks last season with 1,130 yards. But it's a completely different wide receiver room. You remove Metcalf and Lockett, you add Cooper Kupp, you remove Noah Fant, the tight end, and you add the second-round rookie Elijah Arroyo. So when you look at the numbers from the Seattle Seahawks last season, like I said earlier, 10-7 and a second-place finish in the NFC West, you're saying to yourself, that wasn't a bad football team, okay? But, man, they made a lot of changes on the offensive side of the ball. Here is where the Seahawks ranked last season on the offensive side, okay? Total scoring, 17th in the league at 22.1 points per game. Total yards, 14th, 332.2 yards per game. Passing, okay? This is, I think, a big aspect of this offense going into 2025, okay? Passing with Geno Smith at the helm, and the wide receiving core that we had just spoken about, 8th in the league at 236.5 yards per game. And then with a really good running back, they have not been good running the football. Kenneth Walker III, the Seattle Seahawks running back. However, 28th, the Seattle Seahawks rushing attack, 25.7 yards per game. They addressed that need, drafting a second-round offensive lineman to hopefully continue to bolster, first-round offensive lineman to continue to bolster that offensive line and keep Sam Darnold upright, because we know, though Geno Smith might not have been Lamar Jackson when it came to mobility, Sam Darnold is as close to Tom Brady in terms of mobility as far away as he is from Michael Vick, if that makes sense, okay? So if you're Seattle and you come into 2025 and you're like, all right, well, we didn't have a great rushing attack, though we have a pretty solid running game. I believe it's Kenneth Walker III and that guy like Charlemagne or Chardemagne. You guys know who I'm talking about. Any fantasy football players out there know who I'm talking about when it comes to the running back room of the Seattle Seahawks. Zach Charbonnet, okay? Quick aside, anyone that plays fantasy football and has to worry about running backs has tried to pick up Zach Charbonnet in the last 4 to 5 years. Guaranteed he's been on the pickups. But him and Kenneth Walker III combined total for 1,100 yards last year. Neither of them rushed for 600 yards at all, okay? So that is the main area of focus for this offense, the offensive line. Can we improve this running game, which, as we all have learned in the history of the National Football League, a good running game translates to a really good offense, okay? So though you have a top 10 offensive attack returning on paper and with the uniform you're wearing, because none of the players are the same, minus one of them, okay? You have a bottom 4 rushing attack, and that does not equate. The seesaw cannot be that tipped in the running direction, and vice versa. It couldn't be that tipped in the passing direction being bad either. You have to find a happy medium. And that's what the Seattle Seahawks are looking for with their retooled offense headed into 2025. Before we take a quick break and then we get on the flip side to some predictions and some other numbers. Defensively, they've also made some moves. Pretty much a top 15 defense in the league last season. The Seahawks added DeMarcus Lawrence and then drafted Nick Amanawari in the second round to bolster their rushing attack. Key, okay? What we're talking about right now is going to be a commonplace throughout the next 5 weeks when we're talking about how good a football team is going to be. For the next 25 weeks when we're talking about who could be a Super Bowl contender, what team is good enough, do they have X or Y or Z to be able to compete in the postseason? Can they make a run at the Lombardi Trophy? Well, the bottom line is what we're talking about with the Seattle Seahawks, winning in the trenches, having an established offensive line, being able to run the football. But on the flip side, being able to attack the other team's quarterback, keep putting offenses in long third and go situations. That is the key. I've said this for the history of time on this microphone, okay? Stop trying to draft quarterbacks and running backs and wide receivers in the top of the draft. Draft offensive and defensive line. Make sure there is protection for your quarterback and a wall to run behind, and make sure it is miserable for an offense to play against your front four, front seven, if you can stack that into the linebackers. That, to me, is what builds a successful National Football League team, okay? And so over the course of the next 5 weeks, I'm going to break down each team. I promise you, I'm coming back to the trenches every time, okay? And I find it funny how much we overvalue the quarterback in the National Football League when every single person that talks about a good team, i.e. the 2024 Philadelphia Eagles, who won the Super Bowl with the best rushing attack in the National Football League. You rewind 18 to 24 months, and people were crushing Joe Shane for what he said on Hard Knocks offseason about not wanting to sign Saquon Barkley. Crushing him. But then you add the other contingency of people that are like, whoa, he's a running back. You know, running backs are interchangeable. Running backs, you could draft any running back, any round, and they'll all play the same, right? And you're like, whoa, hold up a second here. Saquon Barkley and the aforementioned Jack Charbonnet on the Seattle Seahawks are not the same thing. Those two cannot be treated equally. The bottom line is, without a running game, you cannot win in the National Football League. Look back on any great team, and there could be outliers. That's fine. But for the majority of the history of this game, you got to have a running game. You got to have an offensive line. You have to win in the trenches. I don't care how the game shifts. I don't care how many passing yards a mediocre quarterback can have over the course of his career, and we have a conversation about him being a Hall of Famer. I don't care how it changes. You come back to one principle in the National Football League: win in the trenches. And that's what the Seattle Seahawks need to do if they want to take the next step as a franchise. I'm going to hold these defensive statistics till the back end of the commercial break. We got more coming your way. 32 NFL teams in 32 days here on The Rome Show on 12ouncesports.com, broadcasting live on YouTube and X. Back after this commercial break. Stay with us. We love it.
Welcome to MyBookie. You're ready to create an account and start making money, and we're here to help. And remember, you can get a bonus of up to $1,000 on your first deposit. Now you're ready to bet. Just go to mybookie.ag, visit the sports book, click on your bet, and input the amount you want to risk or win in the bet slip. Yes, it's that easy. Just remember, at MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid.
Need tickets to that next event? Well, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got them with soccer anywhere in the world. Tickets to any venue, any sport. Want to go to NCAA or NFL football matches? We've got them.
Yeah.
Baseball at every level. Every Power 5 matchup is available. Don't forget, costumes and paint are optional. What's that? You want to go to Broadway? We have those too. Want to jam out? Every concert, every artist. That's right, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got the tickets for less. 12ozsports.com/tickets. That's 12ouncesports.com/tickets.
Yeah, it's the Rome Show. 12ouncesports.com, broadcasting live on YouTube and X. You guys know the drill. You should be subscribed on YouTube by now to the mothership. 12OZ Sports. That's the number 12OZ Sports. You can go to the .com as well, or the X. X is the easiest, dude. Easiest. Because you could just follow the Rome Show 1. That's the Rome Show, then the number 1. And I'll retweet the show from 12OZ Sports every day. Or you can just go follow both. All right. So either way, super simple. And if you need it to be even easier, the Rome Show podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. We're breaking down 32 NFL teams in 32 days. And we've started with the National Football Conference West with the Seattle Seahawks. Okay. If you missed the first 20 something of the show, I'm not going to give you the whole synopsis. This isn't Spark Notes. You have to go back and listen. I'll tell you though. Okay. We are focused heavily on the offensive side of the football when it came to the Seattle Seahawks in the first half of this show. We'll finish with a little bit more defensive flair. Plus, I got some team statistics for you. All right. In 2024, okay, the defense for the Seattle Seahawks was 12th overall in the National Football League in terms of opponents scoring, which was 21.6 opponents points per game. Total yards for the Seattle Seahawks defense was 14th at 332.7 yards per game given up. From a passing standpoint, the Seahawks were also really good. They were 11th in the league with 211.9 passing yards given up per game. And finally, their rush defense, 16th in the league at 120.8 yards given up per game. They were also 17th in the league in takeaways, which is a huge number in the National Football League. Turnovers, whether you give them up or you take them away, always comes down to being a key factor in how good a football team is long term. Middle of the pack was Seattle, both in the takeaway department and the defensive department. But like I was telling you before the break, 3 of those 4 defensive categories are top 15 in the league. And when we're talking about the rushing, it's 16. So it's right there. So this is a team coming back, having won 10 games last year, though they didn't make the postseason, but they've won 10 games. It was under first-year head coach Mike McDaniel. McDonald. Now we're going into year 2 under McDonald. Okay. He seemingly has his hands on this look of a team now. Obviously, the general manager and the personnel department makes a lot of those decisions, but I can't imagine any good National Football League team has not had a coach fully locked in on the player acquisition or departure department. Okay, so McDonald going into year 2 of his scheme, made some adjustments on the coaching staff. Clint Kubiak, son of Gary Kubiak, is now the offensive coordinator. That person, that is Clint, has previous ties with Sam Darnold, I believe in San Francisco and in Minnesota, which was why that was a really good hire for McDonald. Okay, so that is your full rundown on the Seattle Seahawks heading into 2025. By the way, they were not good offensively in terms of giveaways, at 26th in the league with 24 giveaways. The final thing I want to give you here is a full snapshot on the 2024 season for the Seattle Seahawks. Now, when you look at these numbers, it's all about what you care about, okay? And for me, I care a lot about game-changing numbers, okay? Why? Because you're really, if you think about it, you're supposed to have a quarterback that throws for 25 touchdowns a year. You're supposed to have a running back that runs for over 850 yards and catches nearly 300 yards worth of footballs and gets in the end zone almost 10 times. I think that's what you're supposed to have. I think that if you don't have that, we're not even talking about you being close to a contender in the National Football League. So when you look at it, you say, well, you do have a running game that can get you that. If we adjust a few things, you definitely have a quarterback that can do that. He's proved it last year. Okay. Well, what could be those intangibles? Well, 4th down conversion rate. All right. Takeaways, giveaways, like we just talked about. Sacks. Okay. So those are things I look at. Those are the intangible plays that I believe then shift a team from maybe being a 500 mediocre, slightly above, slightly below team to being an 11, 12, 13 win playoff contending team. Okay. Down in the sacks category last year was Seattle at 45. That's why they went out to bolster their offensive line. Okay. Okay in touchdowns, low in the running game. Okay. Total offensive yards, all that stuff. Good. 3rd down conversion, 4th down conversion rate, and sacks. That's what I'm going to look at. They had 83 total 3rd down conversions, and they had 10 of 20 4th down conversions. Well, they were a 10-win team. So you could see those areas were pretty good. And we're not going to get into this today, but an intangible for every team is their special teams unit then. Well, what's the special teams unit going to look like? I can't break that down right now. If I started breaking down special teams units for each National Football League team, we got real problems because there's not one person out here that could tell you anything maybe beyond a kicker and a long snapper that are going to be on the special teams for one of the NFL ball clubs. So we're gonna leave the special teams on the table. But that's another area where you're going to look at and you're going to say, well, what separates this 10-7 team from this 11-6 team, from this 12-5 team? Well, it's those little intangibles. How much do you turn the ball over? How much do you take the ball away? How much do you convert those really important late downs, 3rd and 4th down? Can you force them into to deep down and distance with sacks and tackles for losses? Can you be a team that brings that intangible plus a really good special teams? That box right there, I think is what takes a team from 500 to playoff contender. And then how good you are in those bonus categories will take you from playoff contender to Super Bowl contender. Tomorrow, okay, when we get back on the Rome Show airwaves, we will stay in the NFC West and we will take it to the Arizona Cardinals. Okay, so we will continue our 32 teams in 32 days training camp marathon here on the Rome Show with a Thursday edition discussing the Arizona Cardinals. Let me say this before we end the show today. If there's ever a day where we can't get on the show, okay, therefore not being able to complete 32 teams in exactly 32 days, as in one team per day, we will just double up some teams if need be. I hope not, because there's so much information that goes into this, okay? that I think it's a lot of fun to really take a second and break it down. Here's how we're going to finish. According to the odds that I can find online, and everything's a crapshoot here, okay? But Sportsline projection model is the source here, and they have the Rams as the best win percentage probability to win this division at 35%, 49ers at 28.8%. The aforementioned and discussed Seattle Seahawks would be coming in at third there at 20%, and then the Cardinals at 16%. That would be a plus 175 odds for the 49 for the plus 600 odds, for the Seattle Seahawks to win the division. So we'll see what happens. Again, we are 5 weeks away from the start of week 1 in the National Football League. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in today to the Rome Show here on 12ozsports.com, broadcasting live on YouTube and X. I am Andrew Romanella. I'll be back tomorrow, continuing our 32 teams in 32 days. Share the show, share the podcast, share something so we can keep growing this thing. Until tomorrow, you have an electric Tuesday. I lied because it's hump day. Yeah. Have a great hump day. Andrew Romanella. Peace.
Thank you for listening.